All right, welcome back everybody to your favorite fractions, decimals, and percents. In lesson 3 of chapter 2, we're going to focus on percents and decimals. This is on page 109. Wow, that's kind of creepy. Okay, so our learning objective C is I can write a percent as a decimal and a decimal as a percent. And guess what? This is like pretty basic. This lesson 3 goes pretty quickly. I think you're going to like it. So yeah, we're going to write percents as decimals. That's going to be on page 110. And then on page 111, we're going to write decimals as percents. And for each of these two ways, there are going to be two methods that you can use. So back to this page, let's just do this real world link. It's going to kind of give you an overview of what we're about to do. A recent survey tells the favorite subjects of students at Martin Middle School. So these are the subjects. 28% say math is their favorite. Of course, I mean, come on. Look at, that's the biggest one. People love math. 16% of the kids like art the best. 21% like science. 15% like English the best. 15%, or that's 13, sorry. 15 like social studies. 7% is other. So how did we write a fraction to represent percents? You had to write a fraction with the denominator of 100. So let's do that. Math, 28%, 28 out of 100. Science was 21. 16% for art, 16 out of 100. Social studies, 15 out of 100. English, 13. Other, 7. Now, we need to be able to write percents as decimals in this chapter. Dude, remember how to say this. 28 out of 100 is 28 hundredths. So if you're writing 28 hundredths as a decimal, 28 hundredths. What about 21 hundredths for science? 16 hundredths for art. See, it's in the hundredths place. 15 hundredths for social studies. 13 hundredths for English. 7 hundredths. You've got to put the 7 in the hundredths place. Okay, that one's kind of tricky. So, like I said, it's going to be pretty basic. So we're going to turn percents into decimals and decimals into percents. And we're going to start by turning percents into decimals. This is page 110. Okay, so how do we do this? To write a percent as a decimal, you need to divide by 100 and remove the percent sign. This is the same thing as moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So one of the things that we can do is move a decimal 2 places to the left. I'm going to underline that right here. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. So check this out. 48% would have the decimal here. 2 places to the left, not there anymore, but here is 0.48. So to write a percent as a decimal, it's the same as dividing by 100 and removing the percent sign. And to do that, you move the decimal 2 places to the left. Now, that's method 1. Another method is to write the fraction. Another way to write a fraction as a decimal is to write the percent as a fraction, then write the fraction as a decimal. So what we're doing is we're turning the percent into a fraction, and then whatever that number is out of 100, you turn that into a decimal. Whatever this hundredths is. There you go. So our two methods, moving the decimal place 2 to the left, or changing the percent to a fraction and writing the fraction as a decimal. Here's example 1. Write the percent as a decimal. So we're changing it to a fraction first. 56% is 56 hundredths. That's written as 0.56. Method 2, which actually up here I labeled as method 1, moving the decimal. 56%, move the decimal 2 to the left, 0.56. That's 56 hundredths. Look at example 2. 8% is 8 hundredths. You write that as 0.08. Or you could say 8%, move the decimal 2 places, 0.08. 2%, take the decimal, move it 2 to the left, 0.02. Or you could say 2% is 2 hundredths, which is written 2 in the hundredths place. So you can use either method. You can either write the percent as a fraction with 100 in the denominator and then write that as a decimal, or you can move the decimal 2 to the left. All right, let's do it. 32%. If you write it as a fraction, then you turn it into a decimal, 32 hundredths, or you could just move the decimal 2 to the left, 0.32. So that's 0.32. How do you write 6% as a decimal? Well, you can do this. 6 hundredths, 0.06. Or you can move the decimal. I'm going to write it over here. Move the decimal 1, 2. 0.06. All right, let's do this one. 93%. It's like 93 hundredths, which is written 93 hundredths. Or you can move the decimal. 1, 2. 0.93. So whatever way you like, thinking of it as a fraction first, that's fine. Or you can just move the decimal. All right, going to page 111. On page 111, we are now switching reverse. We have a decimal and we need to write it as a percent. So to write a decimal as a percent, multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. This is the same as moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So if you want to do the move the decimal method, it's 2 places to the right this time, because we're taking a decimal and now we're making it into a percent. So it's the opposite of this. We had to take the percent and move it to the left, but now we're taking the decimal and moving it to the right to turn it into the percent. So the second way, the second method, which they're probably going to flip it on us again, but I'll number it again. The second way, another way to write a decimal as a percent is to write the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 100, then write the fraction as a percent. All right, so you would take the decimal, so let's just say you had 0.25. You write that as a fraction, 25 hundredths, and then that's the percent. So that's that method, or you can just straight up move the decimal 2 to the right. So here we go. Example 4, write 0.38 as a percent. 0.38 is 38 hundredths. 38 hundredths is 38%. So that's this method here. The other method is moving the decimal point. So you have 0.38. When you multiply that by 100, you're moving it 2 to the right. Take this out. It's 38, 38%. All right, look here, example 5. Write 0.2 as a percent. Now, 0.2 is not 200. It's not hundredths. It's in the tenths place. So it would have to be written as 2/10. We need to get it into hundredths. So if you multiply the numerator and denominator by 10, you have 20 hundredths. You could also think of 0.2 as 0.20, and that is 20 hundredths. So 20 hundredths is 20%. Now, you could move the decimal with that too. So we're moving the decimal 2 to the right. 1, 2. And that gives you your 20%. So you could use either method. Down here, I'm going to show you both methods. Let's do this. 47 hundredths. Let's write it as a fraction. 47 hundredths is 47%. If you're moving the decimal 2 to the right, take it out, put it here. There's your 47%. All right, 73 hundredths. 73 hundredths is 73%. Or move the decimal. Take it out, move it 1, 2 to the right. There's your 73%. Sorry, I needed to write this over here, didn't I? 47%, 73%. Let's do F. Now this is the tenths again. So this is 5 tenths, which is 50 hundredths, which is 50%. Or you could think of 5 tenths as 50 hundredths. Or you can move the decimal, 0.5, move it 2 to the right, 1, 2. There's your 50. So this is 50%. So like I said, this moves pretty quickly. Writing percents as decimals and decimals as percents, you can either move the decimal or you can turn it into a fraction with 100 in the denominator. All right. Oh, hey, there's one more example. Yummy, corn. The United States produces more corn than any other country, producing 4/10 of the total corn crops. So write 4/10 as a percent. 0.4. Oh, they're doing what I showed you on the other page. It's called annex a 0. Ooh. So watch. 0.4, they added that 0 like I showed you. And then they showed you how you can move that decimal over 2 to get the 40%. Or 4/10 is really like 40 hundredths. 40 hundredths is 40%. So this is just another example of what we did on the other page. Let's do the guided practice. All right, we're going to look at 4 of these. So first we're writing the percent as a decimal. What did we have to do? We could do method 1, where you move the decimal to the left, or you could turn it into the fraction. So try one or the other, push pause, and then see how I did it. 27%, you can think of that as a fraction. 27 hundredths, and then write it as a decimal, 27 hundredths. Or you could move the decimal, 27%, move it 2 to the left. There's your 0.27. All right. Hey, let's skip over to number 3. Let's do number 3, 4%. So try this one and then push play. 4% is 4 out of 100. 4 hundredths is written with the 4 in the hundredths place. Or you could think about moving the decimal. 4%, move it 1, 2 to the left, 0.04. All right, let's switch gears. We're going to write the decimal as a percent. So let's do number 4. Say this, 3/10. 3/10. How many hundredths is 3/10 when you times it by 10? 30 hundredths. So it's 30%. Or did you move the decimal 2 to the right? 1, 2. 30%. Let's do number 6. Skip over to number 6. Number 6, 0.51. That's 51 hundredths. 51 hundredths is 51%. Or you could move the decimal. 1, 2. 51%. Sweet. That is the guided practice. The next step is going to be page 113, independent practice. All right, we are on page 113. This is chapter 2, lesson 3. And this is the independent practice that I want you to do. It's really quick, you guys. You got to show your work, though. Use one of the methods. So for writing a percent as a decimal, I want you to do number 2 and 3 on your own. For writing the decimal as a percent, do 6 and 7 on your own. And then let's do a couple of these here. Let's do this. To write this percent as a decimal, do number 9. And then do number 11. That's going to be writing this decimal as a percent. So 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, 11. They're really quick today. All right, go ahead and practice it on your own. All right, let's check the independent practice on page 113. So the independent practice number 2, you had 2%. That's 2/100ths, written as 0.02, or move the decimal over 2 places, 0.02. 31% is 31/100ths, which is written 0.31, or move the decimal 2, 0.31. Okay, take the decimal, turn it into a percent. 79/100ths is written like this, so that's 79% when it's out of 100. Or move the decimal 2 to the right. 2 to the right. It's 79%. 1/10 is the same as 10/100ths, so it's 10% because a percent's out of 100. Or move the decimal 2 to the right. 10%. For number 9, you have 4% to turn into a decimal. It's 4/100ths, written 0.04. Or move the decimal 2 to the left. This one, 12/100ths, is written 12 over 100, so that's 12%. Or you can move the decimal 2 to the right. 2. 12% is your answer. Cool. Your next step is the Math Learning Journal, doing the reflection for Learning Objective C and doing your Learning Objective check-in. Okay, let's take a look at this lesson 3 reflection for Learning Objective C. I can write a percent as a decimal and a decimal as a percent. So number 1 is about writing the percent as a decimal, and number 2 is about writing the decimal as a percent. Fill in the blanks for the 2 methods. So to write a percent as a decimal, I can either move the decimal 2 places to the what? Remember, it's like dividing by 100. Or write the percent as a what, and then change it to a decimal. And then pick one of those 2 methods to show your work for writing 4% as a decimal. If you need help, remember, page 110 is where it described the 2 methods. For number 2, to write a decimal as a percent, I can either move the decimal 2 places to the what? It's like multiplying by 100. Or write the decimal as a what with a denominator of what number, so it can be changed into a percent. And then show your work to write 0.3 as a percent. Remember, on page 111, it went through those 2 methods, so if you need to look back, go ahead. After you do the reflection, make sure your teacher looks it over and do the Learning Objective check-in for Learning Objective C.